a real simple understanding to hitting, and we're talking about hitting as far as power hitting. Hitting for power is the two-phase delivery, or two-phase hitting. So basically breaking the swing into two phases. And this is a real just biomechanical understanding of it. This is not coming from, you know, my experience of playing at a high level. I was a pitcher, but I did hit all the way up through high school, into college, a little bit in college, hit a lot when I played some minor league ball in Europe. I loved hitting, played it, obviously hit a lot in these leagues, but I'm not coming to you from my experience of hitting. I'm coming to you from my studies. I'm finishing my PhD in sports science. So I've studied hitting. I've studied a lot of case studies on it. So I just want to simplify it for you. How can you optimize your kinetic chain to get more power to the bat? And there is a lot of similarities to that in throwing. I'm known for a lot for throwing biomechanics, but there's a lot of similarities, and I actually love to look at them both and see the similarities. And a lot of times when I coach throwers and pitchers, I love to show them how those same principles apply to hitting. It actually makes more sense with hitting. For some reason, it's probably because I believe a lot of the conventional wisdom around hitting has been actually more legitimate, or it's been more, has a lot more of a correct understanding. I'm struggling to find the words to how the biomechanical movement actually works than pitching. Pitching has a lot of, or throwing has a lot of poor, old school, you know, methods or theories around it that really don't apply well to the new science. Hitting it works a little bit better. That's probably why it makes more sense. All right, rambling on. But that being said, the two phases, right? So what are the two phases? I actually got it over here. You got the ground force phase and then the contact phase. And obviously, we want to understand there's two phases because those don't go together. You wouldn't want to be making contact as you're building your forces in your lower half. So what's the ground force phase? It's that shift of energy, right? It's going back leg, front leg, that shift of energy. It's tough to get a lot of ground force as a hitter because it's more of a defensive movement because you're having to time up with someone who's trying to mess up your timing. So it's more of a defensive movement. For a pitcher, mainly for a pitcher, they have a lot of more time, not all the time in the world, but they have a lot more time to work on their lower half phase to get the forces they need than, say, a hitter. But if you're really good at timing up the pitch, and you hear that a lot as a hitter, you want to be good at timing up the pitch, reading the pitcher, then what you're doing is you're giving yourself more time. You're giving yourself more time to optimize the kinetic chain. You're getting yourself more time to make the right decision on where the pitch location and the pitch type and the pitch speed is going to be. So timing up is everything. And I'm not going to go over that, but that's something you should really work on, is timing up the ball really well. That's very important. But as you're doing that, what you're trying to do is you're trying to shift the weight, but I'm trying to build forces into my front leg. You know, so the back leg is going to start pushing the forces in, and the front leg is going to help push it out. That's the way you want to think of it. Back leg pushes it in, front leg pushes it out. The hard part here, because you're not in a long stride, you're not making these big long strides, is that you're not going to be able to really get the back leg in always a great position to push forwards through. That's why you see a lot of methods where they're teaching you to actually swing, kick the back leg out, kick it out and swing. It's because it's kind of a cheat to get your foot around your hips open really quick, right? It's going to be harder here to get my hips open than if I just threw my back leg and turned my foot in. Now my hips are open. So there's methods out there that kind of cheat the challenges of getting the forces moving forward and getting your pelvis into rotation as you go forward. But that's your first phase. You're trying to shift your weight from your back leg, front leg, and you're trying to accelerate it into your front leg. You're trying to land closed because your pelvis wants to come around hard. And if you land open, then you're going to come around way too far off, and then you leave the outside part of the plate very, very vulnerable for you. So you want to land closed, and you want to also initiate rotation. And in doing that, it starts in this femur. This femur has to turn down. I like staying grounded. When you come into landing, your foot is still down, but you're turning that femur in because we have to spin this femur to open this pelvis. So we're turning that femur inward and we're pushing through the toe. All that's going to help drive the forces through the femur, drive the forces into front foot, and then our front foot's gonna push back and help release that energy up the, or push that kinetic energy up the chain. So that's the ground force phase. So that's our first phase, the ground force phase. We could get more detail on that. I'm just gonna leave it that simple. Work on that. Work on just getting as much force in the front leg and much force through hip rotation as you possibly can. Now your upper body. This is delayed. And guys can do things where as your back hip wants to come around, you're pinching against it. It's a quick pinch and then elbow drop, right? So initially it's a quick pinch like this, feeling the torque between the two, feeling the torque, because then that's gonna coil up my upper body, and then my elbow's gonna drop, my bat head's gonna drop, and then if I have enough linear energy in my shift, that's gonna project my bat head through the zone. So think of it this way: if I do a good job in the ground force phase to build energy forward, because my hands are staying back, now I'm going to have all this energy pushing through my hip. That's why I bring my elbow to it, because my elbow needs to connect with the energy so the energy can launch my bat through the zone. So think of it that way. The ground force phase is creating the energy, and then you're connecting the upper part, the upper half to that energy to move into contact. And when you drop that elbow, you just want your back and what we call radial deviation. So this is the radial side, or the radial bone. This is the ulnar bone. Radial's this way, ulnar's that way. So I want to be radial deviation, right? So when my elbow drops, my bat head starts to come through, my bat is still loaded back. So all the energy's pulling me through from my lower half, but my bat head's loaded because I'm going to create the catapult effect once I let it go, which is where the bat speed's going to kick in. So you don't want to drop your bat and have your moving into ulnar deviation, your bat head's coming around, because you're going to move your bat head ahead of that energy. We want it to stay behind that energy. That's why they tell hitters, hit behind the ball. Hit the ball as late as you can in the zone, because more than likely you have more energy coiled up and built up to unload into the ball. If I'm trying to hit it early in the zone, you've more than likely released all your energy, have pushed yourself ahead of your energy, and you've lost your power. Okay, so that's why separating the two phases is going to increase your power. It's going to increase your bat power. So if I'm trying to do them, so if I'm doing them all together, poor, right? I'm going to not build up a lot of power. But if I'm separating them, right? If I'm separating them, that wasn't even good either, right? Then I'm going to build up more power. So focus first on the ground force phase. Boom, boom, boom. Then the separation between the scap and the back hip initially, the connection of the back elbow to the hip, the ulnar deviation or the radial deviation to hold the bat back to keep it loaded, and then from there it's just unloading that energy, letting that energy move through to contact. So I'm not going to get much into like how your front arm guides and helps you make contact, the angle of the bat, where it is on the plate, inside, outside. We're just going to talk simply today about ground force phase, contact phase, optimizing both of those phases, separating them enough to get a big transfer of energy up them, loading all into the bat to get a lot of bat power, bat speed out of the bat. So hope that gives you a good understanding of a simple way to look at hitting for power, and hope you helps that too when you're in your showcase and you're trying to really impress the coach with good exit velocity, a good BP when it comes to putting more power on the ball. So we have a hitting program called the GFT, Ground Force Torque hitting program, TopVelocity.net. Check it out. It's actually TopVelocity.net/GFT. If you have any questions, leave them below. I'm going to put out more videos for you like this. Thanks for watching.